This year there will be no leftovers. Thanksgiving was written and directed by Eli Roth, who's done films such as Cabin Fever, Hostel Part 1 and 2, The Green Inferno, Knock Knock, the remake of Death Wish, and now we see an aging Charles Bronson in Death Wish 9. I wish I was dead. Oi, where's Otis? He's not in his cell. I shot him. You, what? What? Now I'm going down to Emmett's Fixer Shop to fix Emmett. And also Eli Roth did The House with a Clock in its Walls. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is The House with a Clock in its Walls. Yes, the man that brought us such gory, hallelujah, weird horror movies like the first two Hostel movies and Cabin Fever. However, I will be forever grateful for Cabin Fever introducing me to Serena Vincent, who is a fucking goddess, and I hope she's doing well. She looked incredible in that movie. She still looks incredible. Nevertheless, I need to check out more of her stuff. Serena Vincent is nowhere near this goddamn movie. Also, Jeff Rendell got a writing credit here, too. He had something to do with Cabin Fever. He has a few other things that he's done. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And also, Eli Roth has been in a lot of movies. He was in Inglourious Bastards and various other things. He's been keeping busy, shall we say. So, for those that haven't even seen a trailer, here's the baseline. If you saw the Grindhouse feature that was done like a number of years ago, I think it was 15, 16 years ago as of now, there were mock trailers, and one was for Thanksgiving. And it was about killings taking place around the family and friend-oriented holiday where we stuff turkeys full of breading. Or in the case of some people, you stuff women and end up with way more cranberry sauce than you planned. And yeah, and other news, they can't talk about anything more until the cases are settled. Nevertheless, yeah, you have all the trimmings and everything. And this movie has family, friends, violence, and gore, and all the trimmings. But basically, that's your baseline right there. It's about killings taking place around the holiday of Thanksgiving. Otherwise, if it was taking place around Easter, why would you call it Thanksgiving? Wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, if you have seen the trailer, there are some people that have seen extended trailers. I want to say right now, for those that have seen that there's a cat in the movie, the cat's fine. Don't worry, the cat's fine. The cat survives. Cat doesn't get hurt. There you go. I have a big thing about animal violence. And when animals get hurt, especially if I see it, I have to dock a movie or I have to skip past that part. There are just, I can't. I can't do that. That's one of the few things I can't do. But the cat's fine. Adorable cat, too. Big old floofy cat. My God, it was a huge floofy cat. But anyway, nevertheless. Basically, if you've seen the trailer, you see that it's about family. And you see there's a killer going around, picking people off, and stuff like that. And based on the trailer, it has that Eli Roth, twisted humor to an extent. It has a pretty good cast to it that I'm going to get to right now. You have Patrick Dempsey, named the sexiest man alive by People magazine, and yeah, okay, I'll agree with that this year. He plays a sheriff, Sheriff Newland. And then you have Addison Rae, who's been good in a few things, and it's really risen up. She plays Gabby. You have Milo Manheim, not Steamroller. There's no Steamroller death in this, mourn the pity. That would have actually been perfect, to have Manheim crushed by a steamroller. You also have Jalen Thomas Brooks. And then you have our main hero, or heroine, Nell Verlaque, who plays the character of Jessica. Jessica. I can't hear you. Your voice isn't piercing enough. Screwed up that line from that MST3K episode, but nevertheless. Also, Rick Hoffman, Gina Gershon, who looks fucking incredible for her mid-50s, Shailene Griffin, and a lot of people that you will recognize if you check out the cast. Eli Roth packed this movie with quite a few stars, quite a few names, quite a few up-and-comers. At a $15 million budget, I know where most of the budget went. It went to a lot of the death scenes. So, that's the basis of the movie right there from the trailer. I'm not going to get into really anything as far as the plot. Let's just say, suffice to say, after a little bit of setup, and them tipping their hand early about who's actually responsible for all this stuff, a certain thing happens. We smash cut to a year later, and they're trying to pick up the pieces, after a little bit of violence that occurred. Okay, a lot of violence that occurred. And then people that were involved in this thing, even in the periphery, end up being targeted by somebody that is sending them social media messages. And the cops are bound and determined to figure out who this is. The sheriff is really bound and determined to make sure that he brings this person to justice. Because it's set in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And Yeah, I've been to some areas of Massachusetts, and you know what? Based solely on the setting and everything, that does kind of describe small, town Massachusetts. I also want to say that there were numerous points in this movie where people were forcing the goddamn Boston accent so much. I'm like, please stop doing it. It sounds like it's causing you physical pain every time you try to utter one syllable in that accent. But it basically, killings are happening. They have to solve this mystery before they're all history. Thanksgiving tales, woohoo. And our main hero is Jessica. She's tied to this whole thing, and she means well and everything. I do want to say, as far Nell Verlaque actually, I think, does a good job, given the fact that this movie really is just a series of death scenes with a couple humorous moments. But I gotta admit, the humor didn't quite hit as much as I thought it would. And if you don't take it so seriously, it's all right. But it's also a little bit long in the tooth, ironically, at about an hour and 40 something minutes. And I almost think they could have shaved 10 minutes off, carved it off, as it were, like, an electric carver that never gets implemented at all in this movie. Why would you think that? Why would I say that if it wasn't used? There are a lot of really good death scenes I will talk about in the spoilers. A lot of really good shit. It does also show the greed of many people early on in the movie, and something that triggered a lot of memories in me. But I will say the one mark against this, besides the humor not really hitting, is it's very obvious. Very, very obvious who the killer is. Now, granted, if you're not trying to take this movie so seriously, that's okay. The problem is, this movie does take itself a little bit too seriously for the subject matter. I think the humor didn't quite hit, and the serious stuff, the balance was a little bit off. It really was just death scenes, and also limped along, especially in its third act, even though it tried to reveal some stuff and tried to reveal who the killer was. Again, anybody that's been outside for 5 goddamn minutes or paid any attention at all, unless you walked in after the first 5 or 10 minutes, you knew who the goddamn killer was. I'll just say that. And it ends up being fun enough, but it's not quite as breezy or as fun as It's a Wonderful Knife, which is another horror movie that doesn't take itself so seriously, but has a lot of good heart, some good humor, and Justin Long, and 2 very nice, attractive leads that, 2 girls are in there that I wish nothing but success for. Nell Verlaque does fine. Addison Rae does fine. There are enough people getting picked off and enough good death scenes, and it has enough of a breezy pace to it, long enough that you can appreciate it. But is this one of my favorite movies of the year? No. Does it have its moments? Yes. It is more of the good Eli Roth instead of the stupid Eli Roth. But he does kind of fall back on some of his tropes, and it doesn't end up working out all that well when you package the whole thing. It's fun, has some good death scenes, but overall, it kind of misses the mark. It kind of misses the mark, and also, yeah, it's mocking up and heaping, big helpings off of other horror movies, My Bloody Valentine for one. But nevertheless, I'm going to get into spoilers. So it's in theaters right now if you want to check it out. Check it out around Thanksgiving if you really want to. It may turn you off your stomach. You may laugh like I did. I laughed at pretty much every death scene because I have very, very big issues that I probably should get therapy for. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay. So we start with a couple dinner scenes, and Rick Hoffman has his family. He is married. He is remarried after his mother died. He runs a show, or a store chain rather, called Right Mart, which basically is like if you took the Walmart logo and took Kmart. Are there still Kmarts around? Because we used to have Kmarts here. We used to have a big old shopping center. There was a Kmart. It was the size of a goddamn football field, well, about 8 football fields. It was insane. Nevertheless, they're going to be open on Thanksgiving, and that ends with Jessica and her friends sneaking in there because she knows the guy that runs the goddamn thing. There's also one guy that's running the deal that Rick Hoffman employs, and then there are various things going on. This was a bit of a long scene where people were behind guardrails and people were determined to knock down and get into the store and get as much stuff, buy as much stuff, whatever. They were going to run it down. Corporate greed, all that, and greed of humans. After we give thanks, we steal shit. As This movie, that part gave me a bit of a trigger warning due to the fact that I worked at Kohl's for a numerous amount of Black Fridays. And it was enough. I mean, it was 4, but still, it was enough. I met Chris, a.k.a. My best friend, the Durbinator, if you're a longtime viewer of this channel. He is doing well, by the way. Just want to say that. And Chris, if you're watching this, hope you're doing well. So, various people end up getting picked off. There is one boyfriend, or the boyfriend of Jessica, who's a great pitcher, but he gets his arm broken trying to go for a guy that got trampled underneath a door. Gina Gershon, who is just trying to bring some dinner to her husband, ends up getting brained and getting her hair and scalp pulled off partly by a shopping cart wheel, which was just a great scene. There were people dying. There was one guy that they tried to go through this door with the busted out glass, and this guy cut his neck getting through there and everything, and grabbed a waffle iron, and he fell down, and big old massacre and everything. And that was a pretty good scene. It went on a little bit. Patrick Dempsey was really, really upset because he knows the guy that works there, and they didn't have enough manpower, and he knew Gina Gershon, knew them well and everything, and he's all upset because it's a really small town. And a year later, suddenly Jessica and her crew are being targeted. She's dating another guy because Bobby ended up ghosting her and then taking off and everything because he injured his hand and that kind of stuff. And that may tip you that he's the killer. He's not. Maybe the new boyfriend's the killer. He's not. People start getting picked off gradually. There are some good death scenes. There's one point where a girl's going to be taken to Florida by her Russian dad that I thought was Udo Kier for a second, but he was too beefy. I must break you, beefy. And this girl gets stuff stabbed in her ear so she can't hear, and then ends up getting killed in a humorous way. At least it was humorous to me. There was a saw that was this table saw during while this home was being remodeled, and it got turned on. She got sliced and diced and everything. And that was later on in the movie, but it was pretty funny. There's a little subplot with a guy that supplies guns and alcohol to minors, because why the hell wouldn't you? So you have to wonder, though, like what goes through Eli Roth's mind when he comes up with this stuff. One guy ends up getting the electric carver knife put into him and then gets decapitated, and then the cat's there, looks at its dish, and you think the killer's going to kill? No, the killer fills the cat dish with the food and the water and everything, pets it a little bit. Adorable kitty. I hope that kitty has a good home. And takes off. That was a good funny moment, and the cat didn't die, so that was good. But the sheriff is talking to Jessica because he's trying to, get more information about this, because people are being picked off gradually. There was this one girl woman that was a real bitch, and a real, just flaming C word. I can't say the word I love because YouTube will get upset at me. But that being said, she's working at a diner. She gets picked off. She gets, her face kind of frozen to this freezer door after she gets, thrown in a sink, and then she gets severed. Half of her body ends up, outside of a dumpster. Half of it ends up in a dumpster. The legs end up on the, on the Right Mart logo, 50% off. That was pretty good stuff. And then Jessica realizes her dad, played by Rick Hoffman, has this footage, this backup footage, because the stepmother erased all this stuff, because the stepmother was the one that pushed for the whole thing to go on. And she deleted the footage, except there's always backups, and the backups are good for about a year. Well, we're almost at a year, so suddenly Jessica remembering this, when you probably should have remembered that stuff a little bit early on, and maybe you could have stopped this. There's a guy named John Carver, Pilgrim and everything, and we have the mask deal, and that's how the killer's able to get around, by the way. And really, it kind of just looks like a Abraham Jesus mask. I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but nevertheless, he was the founder, the first mayor, or bookkeeper. I mean, is it just John Carver? That's just his name. So the killer's called the Carver, and the sheriff is like, the sheriff sees all this stuff and everything. Jessica goes with Bobby, and he's looking around at all this stuff and everything, like, who's that, this kind of stuff and everything, trying to figure out who these people are, who could possibly be next. Gee, I wonder why he would want to know that. And then they're still in school. These people that are about 23 years old are in high school. There's one point where a couple takes off after more killings and everything. They take off a little bit. One that was very, very much a jock and everything. There's kind of a subplot of football, being king and everything. And one guy used his, one guy paid a guy off to, or a kid off to write his essays, and then got hit with plagiarism because the guy was tired of not getting paid. Always pay your people, or maybe just study and actually figure this shit out on your own. So he takes off with his girlfriend, played by Addison Rae. They're suddenly gone. Jessica goes down and sees that, holy shit, there's one of their phones. What the hell's going on? We've been getting these messages with this weird table set up, and oh my god, it's all of our names. And the funniest thing about that is if they had even looked at that picture that they first got sent of this table set up and looked at it for more than 5 fucking seconds, they would have seen names and would have realized, shit, we probably should take this to the sheriff. Maybe we should take this to the police. The police couldn't possibly be in on it. So nevertheless, Jessica almost gets killed, and then she somehow, manages to escape conveniently, and having all this pointing out all this stuff and everything, and it could be one of the two boyfriends, except it's totally not, because that's too goddamn obvious. So, basically, the remaining people get captured. During this parade, they end up getting shot with tranquilizer darts by somebody not in a Pilgrim John Carver outfit, but in a Killer Clown from Outer Space outfit for some reason. And they're taken to this hidden location. And then the police are searching all this stuff and trying to find all this, and this person's super smart, able to use signal blocker and bounce this location everywhere else to where, oh, they're here, but no, they're in some particular underground area with a nice table set up and all that, and what the hell's going on here? They're in a house, but they're in this weird area. And also the stepmother is turned into a human turkey in one of the best goddamn sequences. This is so goddamn good. Human turkey, carve up a family member today. And everybody's all panicked, everybody's all crying. The weapons guy gave, Jessica some little, little thing you could get, a little blade you could get out of a belt that you could stab somebody with really quickly. Frees herself, frees a friend of hers. They take off. He gets axed. She manages to get away, gets her necklace caught on the goddamn fence, manages to just snap that off just before he gets her, snaps her ankle, and goes to get, she's stumbling through the woods, and then suddenly finds the sheriff face down. The sheriff is face down, what the hell's going on and everything. He's all confused. She finds this gun, goes into this warehouse, and sees this Bobby. Oh my god, it's Bobby. It's got to be Bobby that's doing this. And she tells the sheriff, and the sheriff goes in there, and boom, 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 and then everything's good. Everybody's fine. The sheriff, other cops or whatever, the other cops take off, and the sheriff had told her something early on or whatever. It's like, it's like I said, the smallest details, that's how they get caught. And that's how Bobby got caught. Remember they were going through the woods? They were going through some prickly bushes? Well, guess what the sheriff had on his feet? He had prickly stuff on his shoelaces. It was the sheriff. Now, the sheriff tries to get her. They're in this old Thanksgiving warehouse thing that the sheriff conveniently set up to where it was going to be, it was just going to be the perfect place to capture the killer, but he knew how to set everything up. Awfully convenient. And then he basically is about to get Jessica, about to get Bobby. Bobby has this company, a tow truck. And she turns on this gas that fills the, one of the things, one of the little inflatable deals, like a hot air balloon. Not quite enough, but just enough to where it's filled with gas. And then the sheriff manages to tie a cable around this, pillar in this empty warehouse that seemingly is from a dystopian future. And then they're trying to get away. He's got the axe. She had mentioned earlier how she didn't want to use guns because she had this one point where somebody taught her how to, pack a musket full of gunpowder and whatever, and it nearly, blew her away. And then She manages to pack a musket, drops the ball bearings and everything, packs it with gunpowder, throws a necklace in there, and shoots the deal because he's like, there will be no leftovers. And then she shoots the hot air, the inflatable deal, and he catches fire and everything. And then there you go. That's the end of that. They scoured the whole goddamn area, the firemen and the cops did, but everything was incinerated. And conveniently, somebody walks out, just like My Bloody Valentine, covered and everything. I wonder if it's the sheriff. And then we smash cut to a little bit later. Bobby had taken off. He was fine. Jessica has a dream where a burning Patrick Dempsey gets her. Told you he was the hottest man alive. And then it ends with her sleeping with her boyfriend. And we get a little comic book type, credit deal and everything. So yeah, it was very obvious it was the sheriff. Now, why did the sheriff do this, by the way? Because he loved Gina Gershon and either felt that Gina Gershon was going to leave her husband, or she actually said that she was going to. It was a little bit jumbled at that point, and there were elements that were good. There were elements where I'm like, okay, some of this shit doesn't quite add up. I think Eli Roth got a little bit up his own ass at times. But that being said, it was still an entertaining movie that at least had some creative kills, some very good kills. So B, I'll give it a B. It didn't quite hit as much, I think, as it could. Had its humorous moments, but nevertheless. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.